All right. Hello, Podcast Nation. As you can tell, something is definitely different already with the intro. I'm actually doing this solo this week as I had kind of a falling out with Gene. If you don't know about him, he's really kind of a bougie prima donna type. He needs to have swank hotels, Wagyu steaks, and DDE in his life. Well, several weeks ago, he came by to record some episode, and he was upset that I didn't actually have a green room for him that was stocked full of Icelandic water that was captured from melting glaciers and hand selected meats and cheese from across Europe to make him a charcuterie board. I tried to accommodate him with tap water, which is what I have, warm ups from dinner the previous night, which is what I had, but he made it clear that wasn't acceptable. Then last week, we were doing another recording. He actually stormed out and said he cannot work in these types of harsh conditions. So today will be a short recording until we can get back to normal. Just so you know, I'm actually working on converting my house to one large green room, and I have a 40-foot container coming in from Europe that's stocked full of curated food. Hopefully this will be acceptable, but that's still to be determined. Well, currently I'm traveling again, and since I'm stuck in this hotel room, I figured I can use the time to record an episode. I figured today the topic will be primarily about detailing, as that's something that I'm actually pretty passionate about. As far back as I can recall, even as a kid, I remember my dad was very particular about cleaning his stuff. Cars, boats, motorcycles, his tools, pretty much everything that he would keep clean. He would clean, wax, keep everything protected, even stuff he would keep out of the weather to make sure that it was in some type of storage to keep it protected. We always had a boat. We live by a lake, so if you live by a lake, you got to have a boat. That's just one of the rules in life, I guess. And we spent a lot of time fishing, swimming, water skiing, but I do have a funny story about a boat. So one time he wanted to clean the hull of the boat, not only clean it, which you should always do, because you get the water line and then you just get crud that's on there. So he wanted to clean it, but he also wanted to wax it. And with my dad, it can't be just pull it out of the water and then wash and wax the best you can. No, you have to be able to get 99% of everything to make it sparkling. So he decided to unload the boat from the trailer and put it up onto blocks. And then he got busy cleaning, waxing. It was super nice. He was super proud of it. Very slick to the touch. Got that that beautiful carnauba wax that gave it that glow. Everything was great. The plan would be to put this back on the trailer, then it's going to be ready to go flying through the water because that carnauba will make it super slick and just glide. Well, that was great in theory, but trying to get the boat back up is a different story. So, you would think, hey, the boat has been waxed. You just extend the cable out, connect it, pull it back in. It's super slick. It's just going to slide on. Not even close. I don't remember. I don't remember how many people that it took, but I remember him telling me that he almost did not get the boat back up onto the trailer without doing any type of damage. It's hilarious now. I mean, it definitely wasn't funny back then. That just shows the level of obsession that he had around cleaning, detailing his stuff, which I guess is probably somehow that I inherited it, I guess. Thinking about the lake, being on the water, actually reminds me of another story. As I mentioned, I spent a lot of time on the lake, and being on the lake, a body of water that you can't actually see, because the lake's full of, algae, and not that you have like algae growing on you, but algae in the water so that it's a green color. You can't see to the bottom. It's not crystal clear, and that's just a normal thing. I mean, we grew up on the lake, and I never really thought anything about it. Well, now living, I moved from where we used to live across the country, and so where I live now, the lakes around here, they actually don't get warm until much later. It's glacier fed, so it stays colder, much colder than I'm used to. And here, me and my family, we didn't go to the lake really at all until I think maybe the third house that we moved. We lived over by the lake. So at that point, I bought a pair of jet skis. I actually bought them for my dad. But that actually reminds me of another story that I guess I'll come back to in a minute. Okay, so I had the jet skis. I bought the jet skis, and I would take the kids out, take the friends out. We would do those towable, inflatable raft things. That was fun. We actually couldn't ski because here you got to have someone that's on the jet ski that's watching the skier, and then the skier's in the water, and then the driver. And so if the jet ski is not rated for 3 people, then you can't use it. Not legally, you can't do it. And they've got a lot of patrolling, and because we were out there, I think I was doing a single. What was I doing? I might have had like 2 or 3 people on the. I don't remember now. Anyway, I had more people that I would need to be able to get added or get onto the jet ski if there was a problem, and I didn't have enough room. And one of the patrol, I don't know what you call them. I don't know if they were regular police, whoever. Anyway, the guys with the badges, they came over and told me that I needed to go back to shore. So anyway, we never really did skiing, which is a bummer because I grew up skiing. I really liked that. But anyway, kids enjoyed, kind of riding on the rafts, and they had, life jackets. And they never really said anything about the water. They got into the water. But I remember one day I took, I think each of the kids out separately. I definitely remember this for my son. I don't remember necessarily from my daughter, but remember we went out into the lake, and I was just gonna go out there, kind of park off into like a cove, and just go swimming. And so I shut off the engine and told my son, "All right, well, go ahead and just jump off. You can go swimming here." And he wouldn't jump off. And I'm like, "What are you doing? Just jump off." No, I can't. I'm afraid to jump off. I'm like, "What are you afraid of?" Well, you don't know what's in the water. I'm like, God, nothing's going to bother you. Like, the fish aren't going to bother you. Well, it actually turns out that both kids were actually kind of afraid of getting in the lake because they couldn't see the bottom. As I think about it, both my kids, they only grew up going into swimming pools, so clear water. And so them jumping into a body of water that wasn't crystal clear, something that didn't excite them, and they didn't really want to do it. It's actually funny how the environment that you grow up in, how it affects your perspective on things. I guess that makes sense with so many things in life, but I just thought it was hilarious that because they only grew up in swimming pools, and I grew up on the lake, how we viewed jumping into the water. So anyway, that was kind of funny. Now, I mentioned jet skis, and so I was going to tell you a story. Actually, I think I already talked about this last year, but since I'm on the road, I'm traveling, I don't actually have my notes, so I can't refer back to it. So I apologize to those of you who have to suffer listening again. I know it's painful, but bear with me. It'll only be a couple minutes. So during COVID, I decided to sell those jet skis for a couple reasons. One, we moved to a new location that was actually further away, so we didn't live by the lake. I lived outside the city limits, so I didn't have access to the boat launch, or I had access to it, but I now had to pay for the boat launch every time, and it wasn't cheap. It's quite expensive. I mean, I grew up going to the lake and you never paid for boat launch, but that's a thing. And so if you live in the city limits, it's super cheap, but if you don't, then it can add up if you're going to the lake a lot. So that was one thing also, and then it just became an effort to go out because primarily no one really, that wasn't a big thing. Like it wasn't a big thing in our family to be on water sports. It's kind of a chore, and so they just kind of sat there, and so we decided to sell them. So I posted them for sale during COVID. I mean, as soon as I posted it, I got immediate hits like right away. I started getting ping, people interested in buying jet skis. I mean, obviously, I figured it out, but at the time, I was really surprised at how many people were interested. But if you recall, that the supply chain was all dorked up, and if you wanted to get something, it was super hard to get, and things were locked down. So, if you wanted a pair of jet skis, especially in the summer, no one had any to really sell. I sold it to this guy. He lived up north, maybe about an hour or so away. So we bought them. I took them out to the lake. We tested them out. All was good. We went to the bank. We signed the paperwork, did the report of sale, went inside the bank. He gave me the money. They verified a cashier's check. He paid part in cash. Wham, bam. I came outside, unhooked it from my truck, and then hooked it to his, and then we were off. Oh, that was good. So fast forward to about 2 years ago. So this is maybe 3 years after I sold it, I guess, 2 to 3 years. I got a notice in the mail for driving in a toll lane without a pass. I called and trying to understand what was going on because I was actually out of country, I believe, during the dates that they stated. And the plate that they read, I didn't actually have that plate registered to me. So some more calls. They finally told me it was like told me it was first a boat trailer, and then finally we discovered it's actually a jet ski trailer, and it was my old trailer. I didn't know this, but you're supposed to take the tag off, and so even though I did report a sale, I turned that into the DMV. I did all that stuff right, within whatever the time frame, did the title, all that stuff was appropriate, but I didn't take the tag off. That guy had been driving around with that trailer for 2 to 3 years, one with an expired tag, but so I'm surprised he didn't get pulled over for that many years. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm not surprised because I see a lot of people driving around with expired stuff. But anyway, that was still tied to me. So I had to jump through a bunch of hoops. Because the people that issued the ticket couldn't talk to the DMV, couldn't talk to the DOL to validate what I was saying. So I had to go through and submit a bunch of paperwork and then get something printed off and then submit that. And anyway, I had to do a bunch of work to prove that it wasn't me. Got all that cleared up. Didn't really hear anything. After I submitted it, they got wiped away, so I didn't have any more issue. Then last year, I get another notice in the mail about, I think it was like a $150 ticket for improper parking of a boat trailer. Evidently, this guy was out visiting a lake, a couple hours away. It's kind of a resort area, getaway place. So he must have taken the jet skis there, parked them incorrectly, and got a ticket. Once again, I had to prove it wasn't me. I had to get a bunch of paperwork and submit to this other county. So even though that the DMV or the DOL, they acknowledge that I did the right thing, other than not keeping the tag, but I did the report of sale. It's not tied to me. Anytime something like this happens, it's going to get reported back to me if this guy never changes out the tag. So at this point, the tag is 5 years old with no tabs, or the tabs have expired 5 years ago. And I asked them, like, what can I do? Like, how do I stop this? And the lady informed me that really the only way to force the hand, short of me happen to seeing the trailer out and about and just taking the tag off myself, which is unlikely to happen, is to report it stolen, and then the police will get involved. And they will get the address of the new registered owner from the DMV, and they will go there and cite the guy and then take the tag, and then that can get resolved. And I'm like, gosh, I don't know if that's going to have any downstream effects. I don't want to call the cops on the guy, but I haven't done that yet. So I guess I'll wait and see if I get any more tickets. Maybe my hand might be forced to do something. But yeah, that's just the what is that? It's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving, except this wasn't a gift. Okay, that was kind of leading up to getting back into detailing. So I started with, how my dad was, and then I was, I think I talked before that I always wash my vehicles. I kept my vehicles clean, and I know I got that from my dad. Now, maybe probably in the last 5 years, I guess, I've really taken that to a much higher level. So I no longer just wash my vehicles. I definitely detail my vehicles, and I spend a lot of time, spend a lot of money on products and quality products to actually go about that process. Now, while I might have inherited it from my dad, my son has definitely not inherited it from me. Maybe he will in the future, but right now, unfortunately, that's not something that he is interested in. So let's talk about my process that I do to wash, clean, detail my vehicles. So I think I mentioned this about Christmas, is that I used to use just a El Cheapo Sunjo. I think I went through two Sunjo pressure washers. They're really cheap. You can get them on Home Depot, maybe Home Depot or Amazon, but they're cheap. They're like $100, $120, maybe with inflation now they're more. But after the second one broke, I moved up to an Active 2.0, and that one served me well. It did maybe yeah, it was just a little over 2 years, because you get a 2-year warranty, and I think I went like 2 years, 1 month when mine finally broke. It was actually a good pressure washer. It worked well. It worked on a 15 amp circuit, a 15 amp shared circuit, solid little pressure washer. But for Christmas this year, I upgraded to an AR630. Now, I should have bought this long ago. That whole buy once, cry once thing. I've definitely spent more on the three, well, maybe not, but getting close on the three pressure washers to what I paid on this pressure washer. But this one, honestly, should last me my lifetime. It's completely serviceable, where the other ones were not. So anything happens to it, I can get replacement parts, and it should suit my needs for as long as I'll be cleaning cars now. So I've got the AR630. I use a Mosmatic swivel pressure shorty wand. I don't have one of those, when you think of a traditional pressure washer, it comes with those long wands. I don't have that. I use one of those to like maybe clean my driveway, but I use the shorty wand when I'm washing my vehicle. So I can get up close to the tires, the wheels, the body. I'm like right up there close to it, where I can control the nozzle, the spray. And I've got a 50-foot high quality hose. It's not one of those El Cheapo ones. It's a steel braided high quality hose that I've got connected. Okay, I've got my pressure washer. I've got my wand. I'll get my brushes. So I've got different brushes I use. I'll get a bucket with my favorite soap and my Viper chair. I love the Viper chair. I just did an upgrade to it, but I love the Viper chair. So I'll start at the corners. I'll do all the tires and wheels first. That's where I start. Then I'll move to the body. I start with the tires. I use a rubber cleaner, tire brush, scrub that down. Most of my tires are not that filthy because I clean my vehicles fairly regularly. But sometimes, if like we do a out-of-state trip, or happen to get in the mud, or for whatever reason, haven't been able to wash the vehicle in a long time, you'll start getting the browning on the tire. So I might have to do it twice, but normally just one time, scrubbing those down. Then I'll move to the wheels, spray some wheel cleaner on it. And then I've got a soft brush that I use for the face. I also have a microfiber extension one that I use for the barrels, that I extend through the spokes to get to the barrels. And then I also use a really small microfiber towel that I use to kind of get into the cracks and crevices. And so I'll use that, clean all that up, and then once I'm done with the tire and wheel, then I will rinse all of that off, and then I'll move to the next wheel. And so then I'll go all the way around the vehicle. Now, a sidebar, I'll say that I put ceramic coating on most of my wheels, not some of them. Some of them are, I've got some older vehicles, daily drivers, that I don't necessarily have coatings on it. But my natural vehicles, I've got ceramic coating on the wheels. It just makes cleaning so much easier, especially with brake dust. When you get done driving, then you can spray it off or very lightly have to agitate the wheel, and the stuff just comes right off. Now, they only last about 2 years. A lot has to do with the amount of heat. So if you're doing a lot of track days, if you get heat applied to it, that could reduce the time frame. But it's well worth the effort to get your wheels ceramic coated, because cleaning them is just so much easier. So what I do is that when I get a new vehicle, I will put it on the lift, take all the wheels off. I will do a thorough cleaning, really thorough cleaning, because you can, turn the wheel to the outside, then you flip it over and you can do the inside, get it really clean. Then I've got I built a wheel rolling stand to make it super simple. So I put that up on like a table. Then I just rotate the wheel. I just sit there in place and then spin the wheel on the stand, apply the ceramic coating, and then let them dry. And so then all my wheels are done. And then for the next 1 to 2 years, it just the washing's so much easier. Anyway, I highly recommend that. Okay, so back to the wash. I wash the tires, the wheels, and then depending on the vehicle, sometimes you can get access to the fender wells. Like on my truck, it's got lots of area between the wheel and the fender well, so I can get inside there with a stiff brush, and I usually use like an APC to get in there and scrub it and clean that area. But most of the vehicles, there's not enough room, and the ones that are carpet lined, you really can't do anything anyway. If they're super dirty, I might spray some cleaner on it and then just pressure wash to try to clean those best I can. I forgot to mention, one of the sprayers, I think I've got 12 sprayers that have all my liquids in, and I use a mini IK sprayer. Things are super awesome. They've got a wide base that tapers toward the top. Really can't knock them over by accident. Super wide, heavy duty base. I've got labels made for all of them. You can flip them upside down because the tube on the inside is connected to a weighted ball, so it moves, and if you turn it upside down, then that ball falls to the liquid now that's on the top, and so you can spray upside down as well. You can adjust those from like a normal stream to a super fine mist, and really they're the best bottles that I've ever used. I've gone through just a crap load of bottles trying to find good ones, and these are the best ones. I've had them for maybe 1 to 2 years. Whenever they finally came out, whenever the mini IKs came out, they've had the larger ones, but when those came out, I bought a dozen, and I love them. They're great. So I've washed the wheels, the tires, maybe the inside the fender wells. So I'll rinse all that off, then I'll go do each of the other 3 tires and wheels. Once that's done, I'll actually rinse the entire car down, and then I use my foam sprayer, and I put a good coating of foam. I do use some different foams, but my favorite by far is Coach Kimmy GSF Gentle Snow Foam, high quality snow foam. That's my fave. So I'll spray that on there. I'll let it sit for a bit, and then I'll go get my other car shampoo and wash ready. I use a 2-bucket method. One bucket, it's got the car shampoo. I put warm water. Typically, I put warm water in there. It's got a grit guard in it, and then I've got another bucket, normal temperature water. That's just the rinse bucket, and then I also have a grit guard in that one as well. I use a wash mitt. I use one of the ones from the rag company. I do one section at a time, but I'll take the mitt, I'll dip it into the rinse bucket, make sure it's clean, and then I'll put it in the wash bucket, and then I'll do some washing on the panel of the vehicle, and then when I get done, I'll go to the rinse, then I'll go into the wash and then rinse and repeat. The intent is that I hopefully shouldn't be carrying any of the dirt that I'm taking off the vehicle. Hopefully that's being deposited into the rinse bucket, and then I'm not carrying that over. I know there's lots of discussions about 1 bucket, 2 bucket, if you're doing rinseless or waterless. This is how I typically do almost all my washing. It's worked well. I like it, so that's what I do. I'll start on the roof of the vehicle, and then I'll work my way down. I'll do the glass, the windshield, the glass around the vehicle, then the hood, the front bumper, the frontal area, and then I'll move down the side, the rear, and then the side, and then I'll be done. So I only do like a body panel at a time. I don't do the entire car. I also use detail brushes, again, to get in those tight areas, those little cracks and crevices, around tail lights or the bumper guards, or just anything that's kind of tough to get into. I'll use some detail brushes to agitate in those areas. I do a panel by panel, but I typically try to do early in the morning before the sun gets up, before it gets hot. Now, obviously, if I'm cleaning in the winter, that's not necessarily a problem. Sometimes, if I don't quite make super early, and then the sun's coming up, you never want to wash the car in sunlight. So I've got some canopies that I put up. I've got 2 10 by 20, so it gives me a really good 20 by 20 covered area, protects it from the sun, and I have sides that go all the way around it, so depending on where the sun's coming in, I can also block it on one of the sides as well. Wash the car, rinse the car, and then I'm done with that aspect. Now, once I'm done with the rinse, if I feel that it's needed or I haven't done it in a while, then I'll use some iron and I'll spray that on. Again, let it sit for a little bit. You'll start seeing purple streaks. Stuff stinks pretty bad, but you'll see nice purple streaks. Always love it. If I'm doing this on like a white car, you get to see the streaks come down it. That's really the chemicals interacting with the iron particles, brake dust on the vehicle. I'll use another microfiber towel to kind of slightly agitate those areas, and then I'll rinse it off. At this point, the car should be completely clean and no issues. However, if you take your hand and you rub it across your paint when it's wet, if you feel anything but buttery smoothness, then you've got some type of contaminants that are on the car. That could happen from all kind of things that you can pick up on the road. All kind of reasons, but if it's not buttery smooth and you feel something, then you probably need to clay the vehicle. Now, I don't clay all the time. I only clay whenever I feel any type of imperfections on the paint. Now, anytime you clay a vehicle, you can also introduce some small scratches, some micro marring. Especially if you do like a heavy duty, like a medium grade clay, you can really scratch up a vehicle. But my rule of thumb is if I clay it, then I need to be prepared to polish it if I introduce some light scratches. If the car actually has ceramic, so I talked about putting ceramic on my wheels, I also apply actual ceramic, not like ceramic wax, but actual ceramic on the car, then it makes it easier to keep the car clean and smooth. But I use an ultra clay, which is super fine, not near as harsh as like medium grade, and I will just ever so lightly, I dip it in my wash bucket. You can use detail spray as well. You just lightly rub across it with the ultra clay, and most of the time, especially on the ceramic vehicles, then I don't get any type of scratches. It'll pick up the contaminants, pull them off the vehicle, and then I'm done. Now, I do have some older vehicles that I've done where I've had to use some harsher clay, and that 100% put scratches on the clear, and so I need to pull the polishers out and just go to town. Not a whole lot of effort, but I did need to take out those scratches. Okay, so now the car is completely clean. I've clayed it if I needed to. Hopefully I didn't need to do any type of polishing, but now I need to dry it. I used 2 towels, also from the right company. I forgot the names of them. One is a large, probably, what is that? Maybe a 24 by 36 inch, super absorbent. I start on the roof, lay it out flat, and then just slowly drag it down across the windshield. Then I'll dry off the remaining windows, and then I'll lay it on the hood, the trunk, pull that off. Then I'll do the side panels, and that gets what 90% of the water off the vehicle. I can't just leave it at that. I need to get almost all the water. I now go and get my my blower, and I have a different towel. It's a smaller one. It's like 18, maybe like 18 by 20 or something like that, 20 by 24 or something like that, and a little bit different absorbency. And I will take the blower and I will blow through, if there's any badging, all the body panel gaps, anywhere where water can get into, I just blow the crap out of it. I probably spend maybe 10 minutes or so kind of blowing all that out. And I'll use a towel to make sure I dry up anything that's dripping down the body panels. Because what I don't want to do is, I washed it, dried it, pull it into the garage, and then, the water slowly drips down and it leaves a mark. I don't want to have any of that. So I blow dry it. The vehicle, then I will blow out all the wheels, where all the lug nuts are. If you got any little recess areas, I'll blow all the wheels out. At this point, the vehicle is completely clean. It's as dry, almost as dry as possible that you can get. And then my next steps are really, I guess, the finishing touches that I apply to the vehicle. Some vehicles I do more, some I do less. It just really depends on the specific vehicle. The vehicles that do not have an actual real ceramic coating, I might put a ceramic wax as a topper, or maybe something like bead maker that I will spray and wipe on. It adds some slickness. It gives a little bit of protection for 2 months, 1 to 3 months. I'll just say 1 to 3 months. A lot depends on driving, the type of weather, if it's out in the open. But I'll put something like Griot's 3-in-1, or I really do like bead makers, so I'll put that on. That's for the vehicles without. Actually, even if it does have an actual ceramic, I might do a topper with bead maker, but it's not always necessary. Unless it's starting to be toward the end of the life of the ceramic, an indication that I need to start planning for a recoat. For now, we'll just say I'll put a topper on it. Now, the fender linings that are not the carpet style, but rather the hard plastic, I will put an undercarriage spray on there. It makes it look darker. It really hides any type of scrapes, cuts, scratches, any of that. It just really darkens the area up, makes it look good. For any of the plastic trim, I will use, well, not only plastic, but any type of rubber trim that you might have too. Like I'm thinking of the gasket around the bottom of the windshield, around the back window. I'll use a VRT dressing, so I'll apply that to plastic and any of the rubber. For the tires, well, I use a couple different methods, but I've moved to one most recently, but both of them are water-based. What I do now is I've got a cutout for the different wheel sizes out of cardboard. I'll put that up there that covers the wheel, and then I'll use a tire spray, do a quick spray around. I'll pull the cover off, and then I will lightly wipe that down with another one of my junk microfibers that I get. The tires are completely done. If there's any chrome exhaust tips, then I'll use some polish and kind of make that shine up. And then I guess lastly, I will go to the windshield and the windows. If I'm putting ceramic on, then I would do a polish, and then I put ceramic on it. But typically, I'll just put also use bead maker, and that'll give me. When you put bead maker on the windshield, it really helps to. It's kind of like Rain-X. It's kind of like Rain-X, where it allows the water just to go off super fast without having to use your wiper blade. So I'll apply that, and then the car is pretty much done. I'll pull it inside. or I'll go out for a drive, whatever I need to go do. But it takes me, on average, 2 hours. About is how long it takes me per vehicle for the full-size SUV. My big truck takes longer for those because I mean just so much more surface area that I've got to cover. You know how dirty the vehicle is. Some of my vehicles, I only dry them in dry weather. The time between washes can be longer. You know, I might not wash the vehicle for 3-4 weeks. But then for my daily drivers, I might be washing those every other week. Or if I end up, going through something where I get, mud splattered, or it's been raining a lot and the vehicle gets filthy, then I might have to wash it every week. There was a period last year where I think I was washing at least one vehicle every single week for late spring all the way into fall. It kind of got old after a while. I mean, I really do enjoy that time of washing the vehicle. That's just something that I don't like to drive dirty vehicles. In the winter, honestly, I pretty much only wash the vehicles when we get nice days on the weekend. Other than that, they're going to be dirty. And so there's at least once a month where we'll have a nice weekend where I can at least wash the daily drivers so that they're clean until the next time. So that kind of outlines my washing, my detailing, washing exterior. The interior is a different topic. Maybe we'll talk about that another day. I guess I'll wrap it up with that. Hopefully the audio is okay. I'm not using our normal mics that we have. There were some sirens in the background from the police cars. Hopefully that didn't come through as well. But this definitely wasn't near as fun, sitting here talking to myself and thinking about what I want to talk about is definitely not as fun as banter that goes back and forth when you're doing it with a co-host. Hopefully Gene can lower his expectations on the green room and the charcuterie board so that we can get back together. So with that, I guess I will wrap this up. We're 1 month done this year, so that's great. That means one more month as we get closer into track and driving and car season, so I can't wait. With that, I guess I'll wrap it up. Thanks everyone for listening. Till next time, cheers.